All right, we're going to move on to our first interview with University of Houston head cross-country coach Steve Magness. He's a graduate of Houston. He also ran at Rice previously, and he graduated high school from Klein Okai.
Yep.
From the area, author, professional coach. He's worked with Nike, so he's the guy who knows his stuff. So we want to welcome in Steve Magness. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So we will actually get right down to it. I mean, you're experiencing a lot right now in that Houston area. It's no stranger to, big storms. You've experienced them yourself. But how does this hurricane, compare to other ones that you've experienced in your life?
Yeah, so I born and raised in the Houston area, so I've probably been through 4 or 5 of these things. And the worst up to this time was we had a storm named Allison that hit while I was in high school, and I remember training through it, and we got like 40 inches of rain, and I thought, this is it. Like, this is never going to be topped. And this one was probably 2 times worse. And the thing that was surprising on this one is, like, in Houston, you get used to knowing where the areas flood, and you know where you're going to be safe to go run and all these things. And this storm just threw that out the window. Like, areas that haven't flooded, for 50, 60 years at least, got flooding. So it was kind of mind-blowing.
What do you think is being done in the area to maybe help with the recovery efforts? There are a lot of high schools that are underwater, and they're canceling their classes up until, early September. I mean, what do you think is being done? Is there any kind of recovery efforts by, the Red Cross, Houston, anything that you can kind of shed light on?
Yeah, so a lot of there's actually a ton. My suggestion would be go online and search on Google. I know Red Cross has been good, Goodwill, all sorts of. The mayor of Houston has his own fund too, and probably my favorite one is J.J. Watt, the football star.
Yeah, 12 million already.
Like, yeah.
12 million.
So, and the thing I like about that is he's going to do things right. It's going to go back to the people at the university where we've been collecting shoes and shirts and all sorts of things to donate. So anyone who can pitch in, because the devastation is real. I mean, there's certain high schools who they've already decided to shut down for weeks.
Yeah. Has anyone
still underwater? So it's a lot of devastation.
Has anyone been impacted directly from your program, whether it's coaches, athletes, trainers, anyone?
Yeah, we've had a couple athletes who took a hit. We had one athlete who essentially lost his apartment, entirely flooded, was pulling up carpet and sheetrock and stuff like that. We had a couple athletes with their families who their parents had their homes entirely flooded. So it hits close to home. I think everyone in the Houston area knows or has had someone affected. I was fortunate. My own place barely escaped floodwaters, but I have cousins whose houses were underwater, so it's very widespread.
I think a pretty significant moment for you is, you have a blog, scienceofrunning.com, right? And you write about running all the time, but you chose to write about Hurricane Harvey recently and shed light on sort of your experiences and what's going through Houston. Why was that important for you to write in your blog?
Well, I think it's important to give perspective. I think in the cross-country world, whether it's high school, college, professional, whatever, we get like consumed with the running culture and everything, and that's great. But from what I was hearing from a lot of people outside is they saw the devastation from it, and you see the pictures and the videos in the news, but like to really understand what it was like for athletes, kids, et cetera, to go through some of this stuff, I think is important, and to put a very human component on it, not necessarily just about the devastation, but about the trauma that everyone gets to experience and see.
Yeah, there was one, I would like to read this, one graph in your post. There is comfort in certainty, even if certainty is doom. When we know, we worry less because there is an answer. But when you wake up, walk outside, and see the unimaginable, your concept of what you know is shattered. Hello, uncertainty, and therefore stress, anxiety, and worry. I thought that was really potent. But
yeah, the way I like to put it is, as I said, I've been through a ton of storms. I remember doing a track workout in the middle of a hurricane when I was in high school, which was dumb, but you're a dedicated runner. You're going to do stuff. So in my mind, I was like, oh, this is it's a big deal. It's going to suck. We're going to have billions of dollars of damage. but we know what to expect. Like, we've seen really bad stuff. And when you come out and all your expectations of horrible and disaster are shattered, like, it really does have you almost have like a oh crap moment. Like I don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Like, this could completely flood my home. This could completely, flood student dorms. Like, we had those issues. So it's, you start going through the checklist where you don't have the answer anymore. And I think facing disaster when you know what's going to come is one thing, but facing disaster where the outcomes all go out the window, they just create this uncertainty and this anxiety that is hard to deal with. And from a coach's standpoint, we had athletes who either knew what they thought they were going to go through or had never experienced, and their reaction was to like shelter in their dorm or their apartment and to just like freak out and be anxious. And I think where running really comes in hand is what we were trying to provide is like, all right, like, yes, this is horrible. Yes, this sucks, but we're going to overcome this. Like, let's get out, get some normalcy in our life, maybe get some runs in, but also use that as a catapult to get us to like know that, hey, we can go out and help people, volunteer, et cetera, et cetera.
What are your tips or suggestions for those in the Houston area that are coming to grips with this, of maybe they want to still train and they want to get out somehow? Do you have any tips?
Yeah. So my suggestion is running actually, when there's flooding going on, isn't that bad. It's actually, in a weird way, the best way to explore the city, because you know not to run in flood water. So number one is like, running is fine as long as you're not running in any actual water. If you're flooded in, etc., then my suggestion is find parking garages. Great for doing workouts in. We had several athletes do workouts in, and then find like little pockets of high ground where you can do work. So we had athletes do 10-mile runs around a 1,000-meter loop around, meandering through a parking lot. So you kind of have to get creative. And we had some athletes. We had one athlete who was flooded in and trapped in his home, and we gave him like circuits to do inside with like jump and all that kind of stuff. So really about like being creative and figuring out, okay, what can I do given the circumstances, and do our best.
One last question. How will Houston show their strength through this hurricane? They've been through hurricanes before. What kind of strength do you think Houston will show in this time of need?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've seen is the city is very resilient, and disasters bring us together. And what you saw is that you saw people put away like political boundaries, race, gender, all those things that typically divide us. And everyone just said, hey, like, you're a human being, like, let's help each other out. Already on our cross country team, we've still got flooding everywhere. Haven't even started school yet, and we've had like kids do 70 hours of volunteer work.
That's awesome.
And it's like those kind of things that gives you perspective. And I think one of the things that we have as a team, and then also the city, is like perspective for other humans and how valuable that life is over just material goods.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us, Stephen. It was insightful. I'm sure it will make an impact for those out there listening in that area. Hopefully we can have you again in the future. All right.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much.